Pew.
Why?
Because of pee jokes, so that we could all be in
Pee Le Pew then.
Yeah.
Yep.
So that we could all be together in solidarity.
Oh man, this guy's after my heart.
All right. Well, I've removed Keith from the broadcast, but the signal has been sounded. We are live on YouTube and recording for posterity. We've been waiting all day for Sunday night.
Posterity.
Posterity. All right, Keith's back out of the podcast. Sorry, Keith.
Posterity.
Welcome to a new episode of Running Out the Clock. I'm your friend Joseph Craven. I'm joined by Gray Barnes, Roe Hunter, back from the dead to join us tonight, and of course Keith Harkins, K. Farkins himself. Our dear friend Crambles Johnson will be joining us shortly. As mentioned, if you're listening to the podcast later on, we are broadcasting live on YouTube. Running Out the Clock has a YouTube channel, and we live stream our episodes on Sunday evenings when we record, starting at around 8 Central. So there's a little plug to throw out there in the interwebs. So Keith has broken in a knife.
To the hospital.
Yeah, Chandler's in distress over the weekend. And then in pure joy over the news of the imminent firing of Matt Luke.
Breaking news here. You heard it first here on ROTC.
Breaking. Unless you've been on social media, then you heard it first here on ROTC.
That's right.
But we are here. This is the official start of what we sometimes call silly season. This is when the actual games wind down and all of the fun and all the talking points revolve around the nonsense, the coaching carousels, the transfer portals, the firings, the hirings. It's a beautiful time if you enjoy not real sports talk. And that's what we are finding ourselves in the middle of right now. But before we go any further, we have to start this episode off the way that we start off all episodes. You know it. You love it. It's time to talk about the Noles.
Got worked.
They did get worked. However, the Noles still 6-6, bowl bound. So the question here is, what bowl game do you think Florida State ends up playing in? That is the question here, gentlemen. It could be a real bowl. It could be a totally made-up bowl that you feel is appropriate for the Criminals. But either way, what bowl game is Florida State going to go to this year? Grabe, because as we discussed last week, your name is actually Grabe Arns. Start us off, sir. Where are they going?
I'm going to take it more of the realistic route because I can't really think of anything. But it looks like with the ACC tie-ins, they could have a shot at the Quick Lane Bowl. Possibly the Gasparilla Bowl. Or the Military Bowl. So those are three kind of lower tier ACC tie-ins that they could wind up in.
Okay, I'm going to go out on a limb, and I'm going to guess that Quick Lane is an obscure cement company, and that Gasparilla is a Southwestern chain of service stations. Those are my two guesses on what those sponsors are.
Well, with the Gasparilla Bowl, the logo just has two swords on it. So
that sounds awesome.
I have no clue what it is.
Gasparilla. That's got to be a take on a alcoholic beverage. It's got to be.
Well, sarsaparilla is not alcoholic.
Is it not?
Sarsaparilla is root beer.
Is it?
Mm-hmm.
Man, I don't know nothing, dude. I don't know nothing.
Speaking of not knowing nothing,
too long.
Speaking of not knowing nothing, Roe, what bowl game are the Seminoles going to?
Military Bowl.
All right, he's going straight up Military Bowl.
Military Bowl.
Keith, what bowl game is Florida State going to?
Probably whichever one is hosted by Camping World. Maybe it's just a camping World Bowl or whatever. Also, probably going to the Los Hermanos Chicken Breaking Bad bowl.
I like the idea. I'm going to go ahead and say that there should be a brand new Camping World Bowl. And it's not related to whatever bowl game Camping World actually sponsors, because I feel like they sponsor like the Gator Bowl or something like that.
Yeah, they sponsor like 2 bowls now, I think. It's weird.
Well, they're going to sponsor a third then, because I think that they just need to have their own just bowl. Camping World Bowl. And that's all it is. I'm going with that. Crambles Johnson has joined us here. Crambles, the opening question here is, what bowl game is Florida State going to?
Well, the first thing I feel like I need to do is apologize for being late. I had to go to the bathroom. Did I miss anything?
No.
You missed me removing you from the podcast is what you missed.
Oh!
Just kidding.
Isn't there a bowl game that's sponsored by it's like Bad Boys Weed Whacker Bowl or something?
Bad Boys
Something
Mowers,
like that.
right?
Yeah, mowers.
Bad Boys Mowers?
Yeah, I mean that seems like a perfect fit for Florida State.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think that's where they'll go.
I'm in. I'm 100% in. 100% in. All right, gentlemen. That being said, let's jump into the SEC talk. Oh, wait, actually, no. First and foremost, let's go to our other opening segment. I'm sorry. JK. Someone in the sporting world you think deserves a little bit more credit this week? I'll give you guys a little bit of time to think, since I did not give you any time on the Florida State bowl game question and threw you directly into the fire. Let you collect your thoughts a bit. I'll say someone I think deserves a little bit of credit is actually Steve Sarkisian. I think that Steve Sarkisian coached a pretty good offensive game plan for Alabama, the Crimson Tide, working with a completely different quarterback against a very, very good defense.
Didn't do him any good.
Well, he was not in charge of substitutions from what I understand, so it wasn't his fault. But, I mean, they played pretty well. Mac Jones had, like, the one error that was a pick six, and then there was the weird pick six that happened later on, and just kind of one of those things. But I feel like for the most part, I mean, Alabama played a pretty good offensive game. I think Steve Sarkisian deserves a little bit of credit. Nick Saban loves hiring and I don't mean this as a pun or anything, but he loves hiring a quote-unquote rehab job in coaching world. I just said I didn't mean that as a pun.
Yeah, he loves disgraced former head coaches.
Yes, he loves those as assistants. And, I think Sark did a pretty good job with what he was working against in the Iron Bowl. So
and I just want to say in defense of my close personal friend Najee Harris that he spent so much time reading and just studying and being in the books that he wasn't mentally able to make that play, because he's a student athlete and he really emphasizes the student part of it. And I know this because we're good friends on Goodreads.
Yeah. And
also like the ball got thrown at his butt.
Well, I was going to say, he made the mistake of spending too much time in practicing catches that were thrown in front of him.
Mm-hmm.
And he should have been focusing on throws that were going behind him this whole time. Otherwise, he would never been in that situation.
If he had spent less time perfecting routes and more time with circus catching practice, then he would have been great.
Yeah, exactly.
What an idiot.
Dang.
Going hard in the paint.
Wow, we got some opinions already. Gray, who you got? You got any nominees you want to throw out or pass?
Just the Buffalo Bills. Why not? They're 9-3. They're actually a decent football team that's in the NFL in New Jersey / New York. So
I don't believe it. I will only believe it if they're playing a Super Bowl against the Dallas Cowboys.
What if they're playing a Super Bowl but not the Dallas Cowboys?
Terrible.
Well, they just beat the Dallas Cowboys. It wasn't the Super Bowl.
But was it the Super Bowl? Yeah.
It could have been.
It was their Super Bowl.
We don't know. There's a new thing in the NFL this year in which they don't announce what the Super Bowl was until the end of the season.
Surprise.
And then they're like, by the way,
like a daily double.
Yeah, no, I love the Bills pick. Josh Allen as a quarterback, low key, really solid NFL QB so far. Doesn't get like the glamorous big plays that like Lamar Jackson does, but he's doing a lot of good stuff. He's fun to watch. They're a fun
The
team.
Kentucky linebacker.
Yeah.
What a switch.
Yeah. That's what's so amazing, Keith. Ro, you got any nominees?
You went with Steve Sarkisian. I'm going to stick with the Steves here and go with Steve Adazio.
Uh-oh.
Dude, Steve Adazio.
You mean Florida coaching legend Steve Adazio?
Yeah, exactly.
First of all, how dare you?
Steve Adazio just got fired today for Boston College. He was there for 7 years. I bet you nobody knew that. He was there for 7 seasons. In 6 of his 7 seasons, they went to bowl games. Yeah. Even this week, they beat Pitt to be bowl eligible. They're 6-6 for the year. They're going to a bowl, and they fired him. They're done. So shout out for him for
like
he never got past 7 wins. So kind of a knock on there. However, it's Boston College. I think the guy, he deserves a little bit of a credit. Just because, Boston College, like, they're not great. I mean, this isn't Doug Flutie era, so like,
oh man, he got fired just in time to get hired by Ole Miss.
He did.
Former SEC coach
Steve Adazio.
Yep.
Chandler, how mad would you be?
No, listen to this. You wouldn't be mad at all. He finishes his career at BC with a 44-44 record. How many coaches are out there that have that percentage, huh? He's basically even. Give him the opportunity. That's what I say.
Wait, wasn't Jackie Sherrill's record at state like 75-75?
Something like that. He's still available. You can get him out of retirement.
Man, he was looking good. He showed up at the Egg Bowl.
He did look good.
Weekend. He's looking. Last time I saw Jackie Sherrill, he was looking a little bit rough. He seems to be doing a little bit better. I think he just turned like 75, maybe.
Yeah, he was looking like a much younger man.
75, and 75.
At 75, yeah, exactly.
Amazing.
He just turned 76. I'm sorry, he just
the
turned
Illuminati
76.
are real.
Here's why I remember that, because he was 75 and 75 and 2. He had 2 ties in his career.
Amazing.
Which is like, I don't know, like that always stuck to me as a really weird weird stat. But.
Yeah,
win games, bro.
I feel like off the top of my head, I feel like it might be more like 70 and 70, like, because I want to say that he barely still edges out Dan Mullen as the winningest coach in program history.
Yeah,
and I remember
just like 1 win.
I distinctly remember that Dan Mullen ended with a very nice 69 wins.
Very nice.
Very nice. Keith, you got any nominees there?
Did you mean Don Merlin's?
Yeah, I'm sorry. I misspoke. I apologize for that, Crambles. Keith, do you and your keyboard have anyone that you want to nominate?
It's so loud.
Loudest thing on the planet.
So my keyboard wants to stick with the Steves and go with Steve Spurrier. No idea why, but he's amazing, and he always will be. But my pick, I'm going to be a little bit of a homer here, as per the usual. And I'm going to say Kyle Trask. Not necessarily because of the weekend, but like he did have a good weekend.
This is a good point, though. This is a good point you're about to make.
Yeah. But just the fact that like it's been well documented that he didn't start a game from the time he was like 16 until like 2 months ago. And he comes in and he has a really solid year. Probably more than solid, actually. And a stat that I told you guys earlier that I'm going to share with the listeners and the viewers is that since Tim Tebow, Florida has had 3 quarterbacks throw for over 300 yards in a game total combined. And Kyle Trask has done it 3 times this year. So good for him. Good season. Made Felipe Franks transfer or just quit football altogether. So
I'm pretty sure a massive injury is what made Felipe Franks quit football.
No, it was Kyle Trask and his weird haircut.
You're right. He does have a weird haircut. We'll round it out with you, Crambles. You got anyone that you want to nominate to give some credit to?
I want to give credit to the LSU equipment manager for sneaking in that Burrow jersey for his introduction during senior night. Like you could see when he ran out and they showed because they spelled it. I mean, it's annoying because Louisiana misspells words all the time.
There's a hot take. There's a hot take.
But like from the angle
coming from a guy that went to school in Lafayette County.
That's right. That's how we say it up in the
that
north.
Pronunciation makes me vomit.
So like from the camera angle you could see it, but as you were watching him run out and he turned and like pointed to it, you could hear the crowd notice it.
Yeah,
and that was just like Joe Burrow tomorrow could announce he's running for governor and win in a landslide.
Yep.
And I thought that was a really cool moment.
Illegally.
Really, yeah. Oh, absolutely. I would, totally commit voter fraud.
That was good.
But yeah, it was a really cool moment. It was really neat to see, and I mean, just after as rough as last year was for him, and then the way he's played this year, and probably has secured the Heisman and the #1 overall pick, and just seems like a good dude. So that was just a really cool gesture.
And overall, a cool thing for him to have done, and it really cool to have seen him ingrain himself with, embrace the culture of Southeast Louisiana, really kind of like be a part of like the program, the school, the area, not just kind of transfer in, kind of be a free agent, but actually like try to be like a part of everything over his couple of seasons there. That's cool to see as well. I think that goes a long way in kind of making him a Joe Burrow, that is, not the equipment manager. I don't know. He probably was there all 4 years. But to make Joe Burrow a more likable guy in that regard. Pretty cool to see all of that. So shout out to him.
Yeah. Joe Burrow also, I think, finished regular season with like 78.6% passing accuracy.
What a joke.
Which is stupid.
What an idiot.
Couldn't get that 80%. You
get up to 80.
Dork.
What a dork.
Nerd.
Still a C in my book.
Yeah. So Jackie Sherrill's official coaching record at state is 75, 75, and 2.
Chandler,
where did you find that? Because what I'm looking at says 74, 76, and 2.
Google.
Okay.
Wikipedia.
Yeah, the Wikipedia's was the 75 and 75.
Okay, interesting. I'm looking at sportsreference.com.
Well,
it has 74, 76. So I don't know.
think that some of those games had to be forfeited, maybe, or something.
Probably. Anyway, all right, cool. There we go. That solves that. So now that we turn ourselves fully to Southeastern Conference talk, where it just means more, it just does. Let's just be frank about it. This was a really weird weekend. There was a lot of bizarre stuff.
No. Everything was normal and went by the books all the way down the line.
You're right. My bad. But that being said, this was a really weird weekend. I mean, you just had a handful of some of the most bizarre moments in games that we've seen in a while. You had some moments that are going to be so big that they get talked about like they will become like folk legends, right? Like you're going to have, obviously you have the big plays over the time in history, like the kick six. They get talked about all the time because they are monumental football plays. But then, of course, when you have rivalries like this, you do also have those stories that go down in history for infamous moments. The Egg Bowl in 83, where the wind blows the winning field goal back out.
Jack Crystal with the greatest call of all time on that.
Jack Crystal himself can go down in history for having some of the greatest calls of all time.
Absolutely.
I was listening to the Egg Bowl broadcast on the radio and missing Jack Crystal. Something fierce this weekend.
Yeah. Lot of memories driving through North Mississippi listening to that guy.
What an icon. But my father was at the field goal being blown back game. He brings that up every now and then. We like to think that might be one of the reasons why my father hates talking to us. In general, he's not a talkative man. We think it's because
just like period.
Yeah, just period. We think that still lingers. He holds on to the anger for that.
He just hates everybody because of what happened.
But we also had some moments this weekend that I mean, not like big plays that'll go down in history, but the bizarre stuff that will go down in history in some of these rivalries. In particular, there's 3 big weird moments between the Egg Bowl and the Iron Bowl that I think are moments that will become folk legends amongst the rivals. One of them being in the Egg Bowl, of course, what is being referred to as the piss and miss.
Just the best thing ever.
Hey, we got to add on to it, though, because now it's the piss and miss and dismiss.
Ooh. Dang.
Yeah. Oh yeah. I've been thinking about that. For like 30 minutes, man.
That is amazing.
Just waiting.
Row coming from the top rope.
My God, that's Row Hunter's music.
I mean, he Ro's out for most of the season. He comes down from the rafters to start this episode off.
Face paint and everything.
Oh, just amazing. Amazing. That's so good. So the piss, miss, and dismiss. You've got the this will be an infamous one. The untimed field goal to end the first half in the Iron Bowl. That 3 points ends up being the difference in that game. Now, obviously, Alabama did a whole lot in the second half to not take the lead at the end, including missing a field goal that would have tied it. And of course, our third of the weirdest moments, the illegal sub and snub, which, by the way, was another thing that Ro came up with in another group text with a friend of ours who's a big Auburn fan. So I'm just quoting Ro here tonight, apparently. But those three moments are bizarre moments in the histories of these two big-time rivalries in the Southeast. And so I'm just going to go ahead and we'll go round table discussion here, starting again with Grabe. Of these moments, what do you think was the weirdest thing you saw this weekend?
It's tough to say anything that happened in the Iron Bowl regarding officials was extremely weird because, SEC officiating is just going to screw up something. They got the illegal substitution right, of course, but that was just a epic level strategy right there. How could it not be the piss and the miss, including everything that led up to that? That final drive was just full of things that you just don't see every day.
A lot of
fourth
flags.
And 26 or 24 that
24,
was
I think, yeah.
converted on just a wide open bomb down the field. Then you had a roughing the quarterback, blow to the head, which, with what's happening in football now, that was the right call, but just kind of a weird phantom pass interference, illegal men downfield, just lots of weird stuff. And then to cap it off with a dog urination celebration, paying homage to DK Metcalf, which if you're going to do that kind of celebration, you do it in the situation that DK Metcalf was in.
Right.
Not with 4 seconds.
You're running away with it.
Not with 4 seconds left down by one with a struggling kicker.
I don't remember who the kicker was on that team with Metcalf, but he was better than Luke Logan.
So,
right. Or like you do it on the game winning touchdown with 4 seconds left where you go up by, 6 or whatever.
Or maybe you went for 2 and you got the 2-point conversion.
Yeah.
I don't know. Yeah.
Easy.
Because I was fully convinced that they were just about to run a play to take the win right there, go for 2.
Right.
So that was my first thought. But how could it not be? Especially, I know I am a little bit biased in that direction. With something in the Egg Bowl, but that's got to be the answer for me.
Yeah. And biases aside, it was super weird. The whole thing was so weird. It just was. That's why it's in the conversation. Ro, how about you? What's your pick?
So my pick is in that, but I gotta set the scene. I'm gonna kind of go with Gray here, but I'm gonna do it from what happened in my house. We're at Thanksgiving. Okay, at my Thanksgiving. It's my 93-year-old grandfather who was live in person to see Billy Cannon run the kickback. Hear the same story every year.
Yeah.
Then
by the way, your 93-year-old grandfather looks like a 93-year-old version of you. I've noticed that. I saw you post a picture of him, and I was like, that looks like old Ro. That's it. It's just old Ro.
So we're getting ready. We've eaten the turkey. We've done everything. We've put the baby to bed. My granddad's there. My dad's there. My uncle's there who went to Ole Miss. My cousin's husband who played golf at Ole Miss. It's just a mixture of state fans. And so before the game, we're watching old clips of Egg Bowls and stuff on YouTube. And of course, The most infamous Egg Bowl happened in 1983 with the Immaculate Deflection, which, if you're a fan of both schools, is one of the most weird things that has probably ever happened. It's on the same vein of Moses parting the Red Sea or something, where it's like, whoa, that's weird. And we all made this strange comment, like,
yeah,
the Egg Bowl
God
is
was
gonna
definitely saving his people that day.
literally, literally chosen. We're sitting there and we're watching this, and we all agree, like, because of the situation for both teams, not great. It's not a lot to, get super pumped about. And so we're like, this is gonna be one of those games where something weird happens. That was a direct quote from my dad, and then my and then after that happened, right, the game starts, and of course it's not amazing. It's not like this, they're not going to look back at the Egg Bowl of this year in terms of how the game planning was for both sides, being like, wow, what an amazing football game.
Yeah.
It was quite the opposite. And so then when that happened, we all were just speechless. Like, of course, my granddad, who he stayed up the whole time, and he literally, I've never seen him do this because he talks all the time. He never shuts up, and he's 93 years old, and I've never seen him just mouth open and being like, "I'm going to bed." And he got up. He got up, and as he turned the corner to go to his bedroom at my parents' house, he turned around and he said, "I hate Ole Miss football." Slammed the door, and it was so funny, but it was the weirdest thing. It was just like, how can that happen? Why does that happen? I mean, who knows? I mean, what a strange thing. I mean, there were rumors of Joe Moorhead getting fired before this game. There were rumors of Matt Luke. They even put out an article like 2 weeks ago being like, we have our confidence in Matt Luke. He'll be back here next year. Onward, Rebel Nation, right? And then this happens, and it's like,
did you just say onward, Red Roll Nation? Is that
yes, absolutely.
Onward,
Let's go Red Roll.
It was close. It was close.
Red Rover, send Matt Luke over. So that's my pick. That's my pick, and it has to be the Piss and the Miss. I mean, a tie though is Alabama actually losing and not being in the college playoff because, I mean, let's just be honest here. Like somebody was not paying their dues, if you get the drift here.
They didn't pay their union dues. The SEC officials to call it the right way for them. Yeah.
Exactly, a little Jimmy Hoffa action here. You know what I'm saying? I watched The Irishman. I saw.
That's real. That's true cinema. Shout out to my friend Chad Gibbs, who's tuned into the live broadcast, and as I should note, was at the Iron Bowl. Is an Auburn resident, big Auburn fan, and has not stopped celebrating the Iron Bowl victory since actually ever. Chad hasn't stopped celebrating the kick six.
Yeah, nor should he ever.
Nor should he ever.
Like Never. Chad and I talk frequently, and the amount of times he mentions the kick six, it's made me really reconsider our friendship. But it's fine. You take the good, you take the bad, take them both. What do you have? The facts of life. All right, Keith, are you going to go with the Piss and Miss as well as the weirdest thing you saw this weekend, or are you going to go with or the comeback? Chad says the comeback was one of his moments that he saw as well. I didn't know that was the nickname for that, and it hurts me to say it out loud. All right, Keith. Piss and Miss. The Cam Newton year and the comeback victory.
Oh, the comeback.
The comeback. It's all in the name. You don't need to break it down anymore. It's in the name.
Yeah, I'm just gonna disregard that. Yeah, like it's got to be the Egg Bowl. Like
really? Okay.
Like so, the Iron Bowl had a bunch of crazy moments, but like Auburn's picked up the whole moniker of like Auburn Jesus, where like crazy stuff happens to them in huge games all the time.
Now, to be fair, they've picked up that moniker from you. You're the only person I've ever heard say that.
Well,
Auburn Jesus.
I will say that I'm not the only person. That
okay, all right.
I'm sorry.
You're the only one I've heard.
It's the conspiracy of the Wahoos. But no, and they were talking about it this morning, how the Auburn untimed, well, it wasn't really like an untimed field goal, but
Sure,
that one was actually like the correct call, and that the refs did everything correct. So like nothing really bizarre happened other than Nick Saban just having a full-blown meltdown, which again is not really all that bizarre. So it has to be
not bizarre whatsoever.
So it has to be the Egg Bowl.
Okay.
And what's amazing about it, and it's something that we talked about, like that game was bad. It was not a fun game to watch. There was like the 7 or 8 minutes in the second quarter where both teams scored like 28 points, like a combined 28 points. And it was like, oh, here we go. Like it's happening. And then nothing else happened until the very end of the game. And so like the last 5 minutes of the game made everything like a classic. And they said it on the broadcast that this game was an instant classic. No, this game is an instant classic because of what happened at the end. Like Grace said, State has Ole Miss down 4th and 24. They convert it, not just on like a good catch or like the wide receiver just made a good play. Like they just let him run past them and get 15 yards behind him. Converted, and then Ole Miss decided to send some linemen downfield for like 4 plays in a row. There's the roughing the passer call. There was all the pass interference stuff. Like it was just complete chaos. And then the cherry on top was them scoring the touchdown to presumably tie it. And then the dude bear walks into the corner and pees. And I'm just laying on my couch and like there's the gif of like the guy blinking and like cutting his head.
Hindsight now that we have a perfect 2020 vision, Elijah Moore is the real MVP of this game because he got rid of Mr. Matt Luke there. So
yeah, he's not the MVP of the game. He's the MVP of Ole Miss football for the last 3 years.
He's the truth.
He's the one. He was the promised one who like ended all suffering.
It's the promised one.
And we said it in our chat. Like what was really weird about the whole pee thing, I didn't even know that like DK Metcalf peed 3 years ago or 4 years ago or whatever it was. I thought this was a unique situation, and it comes out that like that happened, and then Shannon was like, yeah, that's basically what got Matt Luke hired. And sometimes
hired on a pee,
you live by the pee and you die by the pee.
Yes.
And Chandler, we have it in writing. You did say that if Matt Luke gets fired because of this, you're going to get this tattooed on your forehead.
Did I say forehead or just say tattooed?
It was either chest or forehead. I'm going to go back to. I'm going to go back to the written text.
Well, okay, Chandler. We have it in writing that Chandler has to do that, but judging by the mustache, that's clearly not Chandler. That's comedian Rob Delaney who's shown up on the podcast.
What's his name in Deadpool 2?
Oh, what's his name? I forget because I hate Deadpool.
It's like Peter. Yeah, it's like something weird.
Yeah, that's what it is. So far we've got pretty much everyone going with the pessimist being the strangest thing they saw this weekend, notably because of the entire context surrounding it, the entire like the drive, it looking like a potential like going down in Egg Bowl folklore, game winning or game tying drive for Ole Miss to have it ended the way that it is. It was the finish. I mean, is peak Egg Bowl in general, just a ridiculous rivalry.
Yeah, and
for good or bad, ridiculous. This is a ridiculous moment in there,
Yeah, and I had actually forgotten that on like personal foul, after a touchdown, you can apply that yardage to the field goal. or to the PAT, which never happens because it doesn't really matter ever. But because of this specific situation and the fact that like Ole Miss's kicker is kind of shaky, it's like, oh no.
All right, so Rob Delaney, thank you for joining us. But I mean, is it going to be a consensus amongst the four in the roundtable discussion here? Is that the weirdest thing you saw as well?
It is not going to be a consensus. But before I go into why, let me partly because it's fun to disagree. But so when DK made the fake dog pee, he had behind him Gary Wunderlich, who is the all-time career leader for Ole Miss points.
Right.
I don't have extra point statistics, but that season he was 81% from the field and was an 83% career field goal kicker. Luke Logan this season was a 57% field goal kicker. So a little bit more confident with Wunderlich behind you. And don't forget that same year or the year before, Gary Wunderlich got kicked out of the Memphis game for throwing a punch. When it actually wasn't him, but he got thrown out anyway. So at the very least, if DK does it and someone talks, he knows he's got that Gary Wunderlich smoke behind him.
Yeah. Do you remember last year in the Egg Bowl when like they didn't know who to penalize for the fight that broke out? So they just throw him. Yeah. They just found random players. Like I think they tried to throw out one Ole Miss player who wasn't even on the field and never plays.
He was just hanging out on the sideline, was nowhere near it.
No, I'm gonna go with the sub and snub, which is a great name.
Copyright 2019 Roe Hunter.
Unbelievable, because the whole time I'm watching that game, Auburn, like it was the most Auburn Jesus on display that I think I've ever seen, because it was like you take the crazy Hail Mary play against Georgia a few years ago, you take the kick six, and then you just put like 7 of those plays in the game at one time. And but it always had the feeling to me that like all of a sudden, they're fixing to punt. Jalen Waddle's going to run this thing back, and it's going to be an Alabama win, and they're going to get in the playoff. And it's just, it's Nick Saban, being Thanos, being
a self-fulfilling prophecy.
Yeah. It's just so. And but so my favorite meme from the weekend was it was a picture of like Thanos with Saban's face on it, and it said I am an inevitability, and then it had Gus. It had Gus with the Infinity Gauntlet on that said I am the Iron Bowl. We've talked a lot about the Egg Bowl in the chat and just in different places, but to me, I can't give it any kind of like real crazy status when it's just not a nationally significant game. Sure. I mean, I know like, oh, like rivalry, all this kind of stuff. Like we're supposed to hate each other, but like it just doesn't do anything for me at this point. Like 2014, when the winner was going to the Sugar Bowl, like that was anxiety, that was excitement, that was hype, and that was a relatively clean game. And now we're just crabs in a bucket pulling each other down, playing for nothing. But we get in fights, so it's fun. That was the other great thing about the game was that the announcers were like, we're trying to get a kinder, gentler Egg Bowl, and then anytime somebody would look at somebody, they're like, oh, they're getting into it, it's getting chippy, it's getting crazy. It's like, come on, dude, like if you're gonna tell us you need like a kinder, gentler game, don't be advocating for a fight. I mean, I know Pat McAfee does a lot of wrestling events, but I mean, come on, dude.
Pat McAfee.
I love him.
He's awesome. He's great.
I don't like him. I haven't decided if I don't like him or not. The few times I've seen him on stuff, he pops up. I'm like, this guy's trying too hard.
But the sub and snub, it was brilliant. I like listening to Gus explain it. That is next level galaxy brain stuff that you never see in college football.
I agree.
Somebody, the Banner Society in their best whatever today, they said that a lot of coaches are trying to bring Sunday into Saturday. Obviously meaning pro football into college football. They said Gus is busy bringing Friday night into Saturday, and that just hit the spot. I mean, it was crazy. It was brilliant. It had Nick Saban complaining. And it gave us two middle-aged moms getting stuck in the bushes.
Yes.
Literally, like the best part of any game that has bushes is when fans storm the field, people are going to get stuck in the bush. And it's amazing. like literally stuck. Not like it takes them like a while to get out. Like they never leave. There are bodies in those bushes.
Yeah. So I will say that while the picks in this was probably the craziest, I think just on a national level and on just an excitement level, the sub and snub was like because again, it feels like we've seen every way that an Alabama Auburn game could end. And you're like, there's no different way this game can end. And then Gus is like, here's a different way this game can end. Like,
surprise!
That's awesome.
What's this behind your ear? It's another way the game can end.
Exactly. And the other thing about the Egg Bowl is that had Ole Miss not gotten penalized, they would have kicked the extra point, would have tied and lost in overtime. And so, like, ultimately, the result of the game isn't changed at all. I don't think so. For all those reasons and more, I'll go with the sub and snub.
Oh, someone's tuning into our YouTube channel while on the podcast. That's good. That's good.
So does that game get Gus like 4 more years?
Without a doubt, he's got. Without a doubt, yeah. But I joked before on the podcast that he's the new Les Miles. He's like less.
He really is.
He has no personality, from what I can tell, which differs him from the always sound-bitey Les Miles. But he just like the stuff that happens with Gus in charge,
stupid stuff that like saves his job for like 1 year. Yeah,
it's amazing. It's amazing. But
can I jump in with some breaking news here real quick?
Yeah, go for it.
So before the show, in our pre-show meeting, which we do very seriously, I reported that there was a group of crazy Arkansas fans waiting at an airplane hangar to see who was getting off of a plane that had flown to Springdale from Boca Raton. Obviously, these fans hoping that it was going to be Lane Kiffin. They, for the last hour, have been waiting in a hangar with the lights off, only to find out that this plane belonged to a guy just named Gary George. It was just a random guy named Gary.
You heard it first. Gary George, new coach at Arkansas.
I mean, not even a guy with a first and a last name. It's just a dude with 2 first names.
2 first names. Just a guy named Gary wondering why these guys in hog hats are just standing outside of his plane hangar.
That could be 2 different guys. That could be Gary and George.
It could be.
And
they like the law firm of Gary and George. Yeah.
Oh man.
It's the what's the guy's name at TCU? It's Gary
Wonderlick.
Yes, it's Gary Wonderlick. It's Gary Wonderlick.
How many Garys are we going to talk about on this podcast? Good grief.
Well, Gary Danielson said some dumb things again this weekend.
Everyone feels this way about Gary.
Including him arguing vehemently against a face mask where a guy like almost ripped the dude's head off by the face mask.
Yeah, right.
Well, I don't know about that one.
There's a textbook like if you open the football dictionary to roughing the passer, it's a video of this, and Gary's like, I don't know, that one was pretty iffy. I don't know. Hey, remember when that girl got knocked out on the sideline? That was hilarious. That was really funny.
So good. Yeah. Thank you, Gary.
We thought it was great.
Everyone else thought she was dead, but I knew it was a joke.
Well, yeah, she can take a hit.
So when you ask about who is that guy from TCU, I think we mean Gary Danielson, who, if I remember correctly, played football at TCU.
Sure.
So I could have that wrong.
Weird coincidence.
Yeah, I'm really bothered at what the TCU's coach's name.
Gary Anderson.
Gary
Patterson?
Gary Patterson, that's it.
Gary Patterson.
I was going to agree with every Gary name that was mentioned, by the way. I don't know if
you keep going.
Gary Anderson Patterson.
Yep. You said you say Gary Wonderlick. I'm like, yeah, sure. Yeah, that's fine. Yeah, he's there now. I'm gonna agree with Chandler for most of what he was just saying in terms of how it has reciprocated the sub and snub, how like the effects of that has been felt. Obviously, in that we get away from any Alabama in the playoff talk at least for a week until after the season is done and someone finds a way to bring them back up. Along with, what Keith was just saying, whether this saving Gus's job from scrutiny for another small period of time, at least, all of that. So yeah, I think that is, entirely why I find that to be the bigger moment, why I find it to be the weirder moment, is the fact that it happened against a Nick Saban team. And I mean, as much as we may joke about our intense dislike of Alabama or Nick Saban, or, you know, just the reign of dominance over the years, whatever it may be, we're talking about one of, if not the best college football coach ever, you know, in that discussion type of guy for what he's been able to do at multiple programs, you know, consistently putting together, you know, strong and dominant Alabama teams. What's that you say, Keith?
The Dolphins.
Yeah, I mean, look at what he did with the Dolphins. His immense failure there makes him a better college football coach. Those are the rules. If you're a terrible NFL coach, then you're instantly a better college football coach. It's just it. But anyway, but for all of that to be, I mean, you're talking about one of the best coaches of all time, and a guy that had a team in a position to possibly win, when honestly this had not been a great year for them. Keith, you pointed out in our group text earlier today that their most quality victory on the season's against Tennessee. You know,
pretty good.
pretty good. Good job, man. You know,
I would point out that Saban's terrible NFL run was like one game under 500.
Yes, exactly. And the main thing is that he was like, nah, I'm gone.
Yeah,
this ain't worth it. So you're talking about just one of the guys that is one of the best ever, and what ended this season, or this playoff hope at least for them, is not, you know, like just someone completely outplaying them, one huge play. It's not a kick six moment, you know, which in and of itself is maybe a coaching thing, but it is the fact that it was a penalty. There was a penalty. It was a chaotic, oh crap, let's change the personnel. Oh crap, what are they doing? Oh no, what are we doing? Type of penalty, you know, just kind of losing your cool for a moment.
Which is like decidedly un-Saban-esque. Like the guy that is praised for being ultra prepared and like runs a tight ship and knows what's going to happen before it happens. And then he's, you know, kind of caught.
Yep.
And the whole game was like that too. It wasn't, I mean, it's fitting that it did end like that, because it was not a very disciplined Alabama team the whole game. Yeah. So yeah, it's fitting that being outsmarted on a substitution infraction was how that game ended.
Well, and if you look, because I like to turn everything back to professional wrestling. Mm-hmm. If you look at great wrestling matches, like whenever you have two superstars, they put on two really great matches and they're going for the third, they're going for the rubber match. One of the things that they always do in those matches is they do callbacks to the previous matches. And that was the crazy thing about this Iron Bowl, was that it had like the 1 second on the clock at the end of the first half for the field goal. Like that's a callback to the kick six, the crazy like interceptions. I mean, just all the different things happening. It's like there were all these callbacks to great Alabama Auburn. I mean, like it was classic wrestling drama. And then the I don't know who's the face or the heel in this situation, but we'll just say that like, yeah, we'll just say Auburn was the heel. They pulled the trickeration to get the win, and it was like completely in the rules. But it was like, hey, we did it, and it was dirty, but we still won. So
totally shocking that the most wrestling callback game was in the state of Alabama.
Perfect fit.
Yeah, only way it could have been more perfect is if it was like involving the University of Memphis. So I feel like Memphis is such a professional wrestling hotbed.
It is.
And I mean, well, look, if we're going to continue the earlier Avengers Endgame reference that was made, I mean, Avengers Endgame as a movie is a movie that's very much about callbacks and like fan service. You know, like that's what one of the things that made it such an enjoyable film is that you're like, oh, like I love the fact that they referenced that from this movie 10 years ago, you know, that sort of stuff. So yeah, this game was the Avengers Endgame of college football games. There it is.
They even brought back Mark Ingram and Cam Newton and A.J. McCarron.
Yeah.
Through weird portals to play in the game. It was madness.
Yeah, exactly.
I don't feel so good, Mr. Seaman.
That was definitely Tua.
Yeah, that was Tua. That was Tua last week.
That was Tua.
Except instead of him fading away, it's like
Shut it down. Shut it down.
Yep,
We're done.
we're done. This episode's done. That's it. Wrap it up. Oh man. I will say this real quick. I get just mostly because, my friend Chad Gibbs popping into the chat reminded me, he and I had a discussion last year that I actually put up on the podcast talking about, Auburn football, but talking about rivalries and all this sort of stuff. Actually, no, this was a different thing I did for a video essay I put up on YouTube. And he kind of mentioned to me at that point that, like, for an outside observer, and I feel like we sometimes do forget this, as most of us are fans of teams in the state of Mississippi, all of us natives of the state of Mississippi, etc. We grew up right around the Egg Bowl. So, like, for us, it kind of has a different meaning. For a lot of outside observers, the Egg Bowl does have a lot of significance from just an entertainment standpoint. Like, not a national, like, real, like, impactful significance. But I believe Chad told me one time, he's like, I just kind of always remember, like, part of Thanksgiving was later in the day, you just kind of turned on the Egg Bowl. And, like, you didn't really care, but you knew what was going to happen, but you knew it was going to be entertaining, and it was probably going to be chaos, and it was probably going to be ridiculous. And this one was another one of those, it was just kind of fun to watch because you just never really knew which team was going to actually do something right, which team was going to screw something else up. And it kind of ended up being that way again. And so I think that's one of the reasons why that the Egg Bowl for outside observers does still hold on to a little bit of, I feel like significance is not the right word, but there's a bit of, like, tradition even for outsiders watching.
It's the drunk uncle of football games.
Yeah.
Like everybody dreads their drunk uncle who's going to talk loudly about politics or whatever, but you always are looking forward to it because you're always going to have a story to tell when you get together with your friends. Like, man, you'll never believe what my uncle said, blah, 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 whatever.
Yep.
That's what the Egg Bowl is right now. It's the drunk uncle. It's something crazy is going to happen. It's not really going to mean anything, but you get to go and, like, talk about it, and then to the people involved with the game, it becomes everything. It's about we won, we lost, whatever. It's like, well, okay,
Also, like,
and I love it.
What made this Egg Bowl kind of wild anyway was, like, the really kind of obscure fact that the home team finally won it for the first time in, like, 6 years.
Yeah, I know that hasn't happened in a while. That's why I legitimately didn't think it was going to. So
I'd like to point out again, breaking news, that Red Cup Rebellion has changed their name to the Piss That Saved Ole Miss.
That's awesome.
That's good.
That's good.
That's good.
All
right. Speaking of breaking news, there have been a couple of early coaching fires in the SEC. As we begin silly season,
Chandler is clearing his throat right now.
Sorry about that.
Chandler's warming up.
He's getting cracking the knuckles, stretching out a little bit. This is his moment to shine. As we begin silly season, and Chandler, as he continues to warm up a bit, I'm going to turn it over to our SEC East correspondent, Keith. Keith, Missouri has let go of Barry Odom, their coach of the past few years. Their coach, who I believe was an interim, took over like after Gary Pinkel. Oh my gosh, another Gary! Oh,
they're everywhere.
What's up with this Gary episode we got going on?
And they're all like the same age. It's
live from
weird.
Gary,
People
Indiana.
named Gary aren't even typically, like, trustworthy.
No, I've never met one. I've never met anyone named Gary.
Named Gary, yeah. I haven't either.
But Keith, I want to start off with you real quick on this this Missouri situation here. I know it was a rough season for him. It was a troubled season for him. It had suspensions, or not suspensions, probation and everything floating over their heads, all of that. He had some decent years already, but I mean, do you feel like Missouri was justified in making this coaching change?
Well, as you all know, I've been following long-time historical SEC East school Missouri for 30 years. And so I feel like I really have my finger on the pulse of Tiger Nation. And I'm going to say no. I think this was more of a reactionary thing to the fact that they kind of lost a bunch of games at the end, and they weren't particularly pretty. And then the NCAA made their literally 11th hour ruling on their on their issues. And but like we talked about it a lot during the first of the year. Like they had that early stumble against Wyoming, and then they ripped off 5 wins, and it looked really dangerous doing it. But like I don't think you can blame this season on Barry. They had a bunch of injuries towards the end of the year. Like Kelly Bryant clearly wasn't himself after about halfway through the year. Like he had that injury early and looked like he was going to bounce back, and then kind of re-aggravated it, and like he ended up kind of wearing a splint and was just like he wasn't himself. They were kind of up and down during Barry Odom's tenure, and I don't know if they got that taste of blood earlier in their SEC career, going to the championship two years in a row pretty much straight away, or what. But there's like, we say this anytime anybody gets fired, but like who's available that's gonna, I guess, steer them back in the right direction?
Yeah, I mean, it's tricky. And a couple of things. First of all, I was trying to pull up Missouri's recent history on sportsreference.com, and I typed in Missouri, and the first search result pulled up players named Missouri. There was one guy who played at Northwestern in the year 2000 whose name was Dwayne Missouri.
God, what a name! That's like that player. You guys remember that guy that played in the NFL? His name was Ron Mexico. You remember him? He was pretty cool.
Yeah, no, that's definitely like a minor league baseball name.
No doubt.
Oh, wait, y'all do remember what Ron Mexico is, right?
Yes.
Yeah.
That's the joke.
Just making sure that we're all on the same page here.
Yeah.
Noted Atlanta Falcons fan, Roe Hunter.
Not anymore. I sold my allegiance to the Saints, bro. I went to one of their games. It was amazing. I can't stress you enough. I had so much fun at that game. That's for another time, though. Continue.
Yeah, that's for our other brand new Saints podcast that Roe and I are starting right now. But okay, so Missouri's a weird situation though, because you've got you had Gary Pinkel there for how many years is that? For over a decade. You had Gary Pinkel there from 01 until 2012. All right. Nice. So one of the rare occasions in which you've got a coach who is at a program, not necessarily a super notable program when he takes over, but at a program for a long time, over a decade. But they don't change coaches all that often when you go through their history. At least like 5-6 years for coaches going all the way back into like the 80s. And so to make a quick change like this is a little bit different for Missouri. It's a little bit stranger for Missouri to make a change like this. So I'm kind of wondering here, I guess, like where does Missouri go from here?
Like
out of the conference.
They were literally second in the SEC East until they started getting hurt.
Yeah. Not only did they start getting hurt, they also started to lose any motivation once it became pretty clear that the appeal was not going to go anywhere.
Right.
That didn't help them at all. But I mean, what do you guys think?
Also,
where does Missouri go from here? I guess is the question. I want to get.
NCAA sucks for waiting until like week 11 to do that.
But are we surprised?
You didn't have to say that they suck for waiting. They just suck.
Yeah.
Well, right. But they suck especially for that. Like.
Yeah, I want to get a statement from one more of you before we move on to Matt Luke news. So, I mean, where does Missouri go from here? Do any of you have any sort of idea of what might actually work at a program like Missouri moving forward?
I mean, one of their coaches was Dan Devine, and the only reason I know that name is because he's the dude that took Rudy Rudibaker or whatever his name was off the Notre Dame team. I mean, to me, what is Missouri? They are like the Vanderbilt of the East, yet they are in the East. What? I mean, like, what are they going to compete ever? I mean, they got lucky when they got lucky being put in the East or whatever.
First of all, Derek Mason's on his way to your house right now.
Bring it, Derek. My thoughts about. I mean, Barry Odom only got two years there. Is that right? Or am I or no? He got
no. This was Odom's fourth year.
Fourth year. Okay, yeah. So who out there is going to be like, I want that Missouri job? No, they're going to be taking leftovers from all these other places. I mean, they might as well go and steal Greg Schiano from Rutgers, who they just hired him. And so, I mean, is anyone going to be able to take that program and do what Gary Pinkel did, I guess? Probably not, because Gary Pinkel did all of his success when they were in the lowly Big 12 or whatever they call it, Big 12 East terribleness. No, I'm
Gary Pinkel had all of his success in the SEC East.
Yeah. I mean, he did. There was a run in there at the last several years of them being in the Big 12. They did have a run of making it to bowl games a lot, but then he had, 12 wins and 11 wins in the SEC.
Why did they get rid of him? Because he dropped off in 2015. He was 1-7, 5-7.
Pinkel retired. I think he
retired.
He
had cancer.
He had cancer. Was going through treatments and came back from it. I think and coached a little bit, but decided to retire. Yeah.
Well, they need to get somebody out of the Gary Pinkel coaching tree or something like that. That whatever
they did. That was Barry Odom.
Yeah.
Who cares? Who cares? Yeah. They're so not relevant, and they won't be for the rest of their time in the SEC. So go be like Notre Dame and just pick up people who want to play you or something. I don't
know. Yeah, it's a difficult situation because I don't know, what do you do with it? What do you do with a school that, I mean, only had a year of like this NCAA probation and all that, but still had to deal with that. Still, it's coming off of 5-7 Pinkel's last year and have barely topped 7 and 8 wins since then, and dropped back down to 6 wins this year in a year in which they thought, they'd be one of the better teams in the East. It's not necessarily a great situation. It doesn't mean it's necessarily a situation that like can't be a little bit faster of a fix in the right hands, but it still is. It's not great. And that being said, it's a questionable fire, probably. The Matt Luke news, however, not really as questionable. Seems like
shocking, but
right, yeah, questionable in a sense that no one thought it was going to happen.
Right, yeah, they're questionable in that we weren't sure when, if they were going to pull it off or not, but they actually seemed to have done it in a timely manner. But the question here, I guess, is where do they go from here? But we'll turn it over to Chandler. You're our resident Ole Miss beat writer. I forget what we always say, but I mean, Matt Luke out. They're making the move. Where do you think they have to go from here? And why is it Rich Rodriguez?
If it is Rich Rodriguez, I'm going to go lay down in Purdue's path right outside of my house. And
just speaking of, where's Purdue this week? Are they taking the week off? They got a bye week?
No, we saw Purdue. I don't know where they are now, but I don't know. It was like at some point earlier today there was some free message board, because it wasn't until we started this podcast that I actually signed up to pay money for one again.
Chandler's back in the game.
No, I'm back hardcore. No, I want to see the coaching hot board, so it's gonna be a fun couple of weeks. But
well, you got a problem too, Chandler, when like Dickie Scruggs tweets. You know, like that's
when Dickie Scruggs is tweeting about your moral compass being off,
right.
like, you know, it's like, I don't know. Well, the other side of that is like watching people who still take Dan Rather seriously. It's like, oh, Dan, you're this voice of truth. It's like, dude, I busted for making up news. What? Come on, people, let's go. But yeah, like the rumors started like sometime. The rumors started sometime like earlier today that Carter had come up with the money and that basically he had gone to the chancellor and was like, hey, I'm doing this. You can sign off on it or you can watch this whole thing fall apart. And they did, and it happened. I mean, it went from like rumor to like happen, done, over in like 20 minutes. And there's just there's no way. There's absolutely no way that after the state game that you can justify keeping him. There's no way you could. And it's not even about winning or losing because it's this whole thing that he's making the statement that, like, this is not who we are as a team. We're a disciplined team, whatever. It's like, this is the third Egg Bowl where you've had some major shame that really you started. I mean, there was the DK fake P, which was funny. There was the fight last year, which was like, yeah, that's kind of on you. And then there's this. It's like, yeah, that after 3 years, that's kind of who you are. And I think people just got tired of it. And so there's Purdue right there.
Look at that right up there.
So it's looking like, according to this thing that I'm reading, like obviously these are not my sources, but it sounds like Florida State is pretty in on Mike Norvell. So that, you know, Billy Napier is a hot name. The guy at Appalachian State, Eli Drinkwitz, which I don't know, it's a great name. You know,
perfect.
Come to Oxford, Drinkwitz the coach. You know,
yeah. But Eli Drinkwitz, he was a character, I think, in Hell on Wheels. I want to say,
yeah,
maybe.
That sounds right.
Yeah,
that sounds right.
I haven't thought about that show in forever.
Brian Harson's name is out there. You know, there's a bunch of guys out there that I think, because it's maybe a little different at Missouri, but it's probably the same. That even if Ole Miss and Missouri aren't like the top SEC jobs, there's still SEC jobs where you'll make $3 to $5 million a year, like on your first contract. And if you win, you get even more than that. And if you lose, they still have to pay it all to you. Like, being fired as a college football coach is the best thing in the world because you get so much money. But I don't know, man. It's going to be interesting. And I, for one, hope it's either Harsin or if they can find a way to get Norvell. But Drinkwitz also would be awesome. So I don't know. I'm pretty excited. Pretty happy.
I mean, on the flip side of that, we've seen, you know, and I'm turning it over to you here, Gray, on this one. But on the flip side of that, you know, you see kind of from the outside perspective, we see the moves being made on a program and in a school that has been in, I don't want to necessarily say turmoil recently. That sounds like too strong of a word, but a lot of disarray at times, not having a chancellor in charge of the school, not having an AD for a little bit, sorting some of those things out, and now trying to make these moves as well. It's a lot of changes. Do you think that this is not necessarily, I mean, it seems like it has to be the right direction, but what sort of direction would a school like this need to go towards in order to kind of repair not just the football program right here, but, you know, a lot of stuff that's been going on, Gray? What do you think happens here?
Oof.
What type of coach, I guess, is the right type of hire?
Sure. Well, all of what you just said just kind of made me think of what Mississippi State's situation was trying to replace Rick Stansbury in basketball. There was some turmoil, just disciplinary issues and players transferring and all this stuff. And I think what would have settled the waters in that situation would have just been a proven long-standing head coach. Everybody knows what they're getting.
Kermit Davis.
There you go. Kermit
I just have
Davis.
this weird frog in my throat. I don't know.
Man, how history
You're removed from the
was.
stream, by the way, Chandler.
I hate Chandler.
Chandler's out.
That was the world's worst pun or best pun. Not really sure which one.
I just had this frog in my throat. It's so bad.
Especially so guy, like Napier, or even a guy, I don't know if many people really think about it this way, but Tom Allen at Indiana. I don't know if he's the best fit for Ole Miss, but for some of these other jobs that are open.
Tim Allen.
Mm-hmm.
Tim Allen. Tim Allen is fine. Yes, Tom Allen. No.
I don't think he would be the best fit at Ole Miss, so I'm not really answering the question. But for teams that are, I don't know, I think like a South Florida, somebody like Tom Allen would not be a bad fit. I don't know. Man,
Charlie Strong's free.
That's a really hard question to answer, because that's a university-wide issue that I think is going on.
I'll answer it.
Go for it, Ro.
Go, Ro, go.
Okay, so you got two options here, Ole Miss. You got two options. You either get Macho Man Randy Savage,
who's dead.
Well, obviously, or Lane Kiffin.
Also dead.
Who's also dead.
He's also dead.
You can reanimate one of these two corpses.
Why do I say Lane Kiffin? Because to me, Lane Pain Train represents everything that Ole Miss is. I think Lane Kiffin would be a perfect fit for Ole Miss. I really think that. I'm not even kidding. He would be. I think Lane needs to get back in the SEC for obvious reasons. I think that if not Lane, you can't have Macho Man Randy Savage because, one, I don't know if you have to take in consideration too for the Ole Miss football schedule next year. Now I'm looking at it right now. It's a rough one. They start off with Baylor. You look, then they get the Red Hawks of Southeast Missouri, not to be confused with the Central Missouri Tigers, equally as terrible. But now you get Auburn, LSU, Alabama at Vanderbilt, which is always that weird game for Ole Miss for some reason. Then you host Florida, then there's UConn, and then a bye week. So
so Ole Miss is going into the bye week with 6 wins. So
yeah, exactly. That's my thought too. And then you go to at Kyle Field, at Arkansas in Fayetteville, which is a weird place to play, even though they suck. Then the Georgia Southern Eagles, and then you host Mississippi State. So I'm looking at this or whatever, and you're going to beat the Eagles, but that's the Georgia Southern Eagles. That's a tough one because they have that weird option, whatever it is, triple option game.
You might have a better chance of beating the Philadelphia Eagles this year than Georgia Southern
true.
Eagles right now.
So you're looking at best. You have a one win against the Red Hawks. One definitely give me against UConn because they're horrible. Then after that, we're looking at possibly Vanderbilt, maybe, possibly Arkansas. Those are toss-up games for next year. Everything else,
Vanderbilt, Arkansas are still really bad.
They're still bad, but that's the thing, though. You're going to have a new coach, somebody who's going to have that Macho Man Randy Savage. Come on, brothers, it's going to be great. Or you have somebody like Lane Kiffin.
Ed Orgeron?
Hulk Hogan, by the way.
Hulk Hogan, yeah, that's true. That was Ed. Let me do that again. Hang on. Slap it to the Slim Jim, brother.
Macho Man didn't say brother. Hulk Hogan says brother.
No, I think Ro got it. He says brother when he's talking about Slim Jims.
He does. He does.
We all know it.
But yes, so you're going to have somebody who's going to be a fall guy. Lane Kiffin is that. He is a fall guy. That's all he is. That's all he ever will be.
No, Matt Luke was the fall. You can't do another fall guy. Like you got to go. you go and get the guy that you think is the guy.
Yeah. You had Hugh Freeze, who's like the punching bag forever, and then you got Hugh Freeze's guy and Matt Luke, and now he's a punching bag. Like, I think you can't have a third punching bag. You can't
because the season goes one of two ways. One is you just take your lumps in those first 7 games or however it is, and you go 2-5 and hope you kind of hang on, whatever. Or you come and you find a way, like because Alabama's going to have some question marks next year. Auburn, probably the same deal. Florida, I mean, like these are all really good teams, but they're not all going to be there's going to be new quarterbacks. There's going to be just new stuff.
Also,
across the board.
like LSU's kind of in the same
same
field.
There's no way that
there's a bunch of good teams, but they're not all like guaranteed. Like world beaters.
Exactly, and so if you find a way to win one of those games, then you kind of turn the corner going into the last stretch. Like I don't believe in A&M and Jimbo Fisher at all. Now, obviously, winning there is going to be tough, but I don't believe in them. I think Vanderbilt's going to be bad. I think Arkansas is going to be bad. I think there's going to be a chance to win the state game. So you're going to have several opportunities down the stretch that if you can pull off 1 or 2 games, maybe guys are playing hard for a new coach. Maybe there's a competent offensive system, and John Rice Plumlee is playing running back or slot receiver, and please, Lord, not quarterback anymore.
When head coach Rich Rod has his way, he'll be under center.
Well, that much is true. And he won't be under center. He'll be lined up in the shotgun. But
behind center, excuse me.
Yeah, exactly. So that's the that's the thing. That's the thing.
So how do you market the job to somebody?
Come coach the SEC West for $3.5 million.
Yeah, I guess that's it.
I mean,
I guess that's it. It's just like, how long does someone come to the SEC West for $3.5 million, struggle in it for a few years, and then Dan Mullen their way out of there because they, don't want to deal with being in the SEC West anymore.
Hey,
and that's coming. And like Dan Mullen is a guy that wants but the highest level of competition. Like you can tell he's a competitive guy. He just is. But even he was like, I'm going back to the East. Obviously he loves Florida and wanted to go back to Florida. There's situations there, but like, how do you market that sort of job?
But think about like Dan Mullen at Mississippi State. Like, what did he have to do at Mississippi State to be considered to be the head coach at Florida? Like he had to win, and he had to win big. And so it's like, hey, okay, if you come to an Ole Miss, if you come to a Missouri, if you come to an Arkansas, and you put together, 3, 4, 5 years of successful football, you're going to have an opportunity to go and get one of those big jobs if they come open. So
that's why I'm actually kind of on board with Rose's Macho Man idea. No,
the man knew how to win.
No, but like for real, like
you know how to win.
Lane Kiffin is a very interesting name.
He's going to Arkansas though. Like I think that's going to.
No, but like him going to Ole Miss makes a ton of sense because like Ole Miss,
his dad is a lawyer. His dad owns a dealership. They're too drunk to pay attention to Lane. It's perfect.
He has like a swoosh like kind of haircut going on, so he'll look just like all the students. But no, for real, like Ole Miss is bad, but they've got a lot of offensive weapons that are young, that are going to be good in a few years. And like after how things went in Knoxville, like it makes a lot of sense for him to come back into the SEC after being successful as an OC at Bama to be a head coach, see if he can kind of pull off like Ed Orgeron and come out of nowhere and have a really good, successful time. I'm not saying that Ole Miss is anywhere near where LSU was like 3 years ago, but like that's a very interesting name, and it'd be kind of cool if it happened. But
yeah, and I mean, to Lane's credit, like the CUSA is not good, but he's built a program that's competing for CUSA championships and stuff. Mm-hmm. At Florida Atlantic. So it seems like he might be learning how to be a head coach at this point and trying to fly under the radar. But yeah, then it's just like, is there enough there? Like, is there enough? you need someone that you feel like can be a stable force when you've got a program that has had years of instability now. And is he stable enough? And that's the question mark there.
Yeah. And his history would say no.
Yeah, exactly. And that's what it comes down to. That's what it comes down to. Who's available? That seems to be a stable force, a stabilizing force. A guy
Urban Meyer.
Right, exactly. Hey, you know what? Actually, Chandler, you asked the question, what did Dan Mullen have to do to get the Florida job? Well, he had to work for Urban Meyer at some point in time. I think that was really all.
Yeah, also true. Also true.
There's that. So we'll when we get closer to like the actual off-season, silly season really fully underway, we'll revisit this topic a bit more, especially when rumors or potential hirings really come to light. But as for now, we're hitting the time in which we need to jump into quick predictions and wrap things up on this episode.
Predictions.
Quick predictions. We're going to predict a handful of the big conference title games that are happening this week. In particular, picking out the ones that all feature ranked opponents. So I've got 5 games for you guys to predict. All right. 5 games. We're going to look at the Pac-12, the Big Ten.
Boo!
I accidentally typed Big Ten twice in the spreadsheet here. Big 12 or whatever it's called. The SEC and, of course, the powerhouse conference, the AAC. That's right. The AAC championship game features 2 ranked teams.
Features 2 Lane.
I wish.
Too furious.
So that's what we're looking at
Too fast
here
to
this week. Too fast to track. Shout out.
I missed that.
So, gentlemen, first and foremost, let's start off with the AAC matchup, Memphis and Cincinnati. Keith, if you want to pull up your sources that give you the Vegas spreads and let us know if there's any spreads on any of this. Oh, Keith instead exited the recording session. He cracked under pressure and left entirely.
I'm back.
It was too much. It was too much for Keith. He couldn't handle it, and he left. All right, so Cincinnati and Memphis. Cincinnati ranked 21st, Memphis 16th in the country, according to what I'm looking at right here. And that's going to be our first one. The other matchups we got: Ohio State, Wisconsin, Oklahoma, Baylor, Oregon, Utah, and of course LSU and Georgia. So, Keith, do you have the spreads in front of you and ready to go?
I've got Cincinnati and Memphis locked and loaded.
Who is favorited in that game?
Memphis is a 10-point favorite.
All right, Memphis, 10-point favorite. Crambles Johnson, please start us off.
Didn't Memphis just win that game by more than 10?
Yeah, I think so. Didn't they? So they have to go back and do it again, right?
They got to play it again. So
didn't the same thing happen last year as well?
Yes, it did.
I think in the AAC.
Yeah, I think it did, and I think Memphis is way better than Cincinnati. So Memphis.
All right, Keith.
Not taking into account athletic ability or coaching or anything having to do with the actual football game, I'm picking Cincinnati because of their world-class troll job over UCF.
You hate to see it.
You hate to see it with the Disney logo. Just brilliant.
So good. Ro, who you got?
I'll take Graceland for 2000.
I do want to point out that in last week's predictions, Keith actually predicted Kick 6 would win it. And at the end of the first half, I got so excited because I was like, we're going to see a stupid Kick 6.
I'm going to get 20 points in one game.
Oh, man. All right. Gray, who you got?
Go Tigers.
Go Tigers. That's a good Macho Man impression.
That was good. I think I'm going to go Memphis as well in this matchup.
You suckers.
I know. We're all fools. We are all fools.
I've got an inside tip that Paxton Lynch is going to come back and drive a milk truck through the Memphis locker room for this game.
I'm pretty sure he ain't got no job, so he'd definitely is available.
Yeah,
Well,
he has a job driving a milk truck.
I was going to say he's
It's a milk delivery
delivery
guy.
guy now. He's a milk delivery guy. All right. Ohio State and Wisconsin, the big game. That's what they call it. Keith, do you have a spread for that one?
Ohio State is a modest 16.5-point favorite.
Jesus.
Ooh, no respect for the Badgers.
Man.
We got Bearcats in one game. We got Badgers in another game. We got some weird mascots going on here, guys. Chandler, who you got?
I think Ohio State's the best team in the country, so Ohio State.
All right, Keith.
I think Justin Fields is the best team in the country. Give me Ohio Fields.
Wow, dude.
All right. Ro?
I'm picking Wisconsin because that's where my brother-in-law went. So I'm go Badgers, right? Go Badgers.
Right.
Yeah.
All right. Gray?
Go Buckeyes.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, I got to go Ohio State as well. I don't think they're the best team in the country, but I think they're the second best team in the country. That being said, I think that Wisconsin has the best running back in the country, even better than Chandler's favorite, Chubba Hubbard. Good old Chubba. Chubba Bubba Hubbard at Oklahoma State. All right.
Chubba Bubba.
Oklahoma and Baylor. Keith, what's the spread?
I've got to find that
The
actual conference because the big 16 isn't on here.
They've only got
Oklahoma.
5 teams left
Yeah,
in
that's
it,
true.
as far as I
Yeah.
remember.
The Big 7. Oklahoma is a 9.5-point favorite.
All right, 9.5 in favor of the Sooners. Chandler?
I don't know. I think it's Oklahoma, but Baylor for 3.5 quarters was really impressive against them.
Mm-hmm.
And you know what? Go Bears. Sick 'em Bears. Let's go.
Oh, he's doing it.
Oh!
He's changing it on us.
Wow.
Keith?
Oklahoma needed a miracle fourth quarter to come back and beat Baylor. And we all know that Jesus is still in Auburn. He won't make this game. Go Baylor Bears.
Oh, wow. There's a lot of people picking Baylor here.
I didn't know where you were going with that.
No.
I
me
didn't
either.
either.
I really
That was a
didn't.
left turn.
Ro?
Man, you gotta go Jalen make Alabama hurt right now, dude. They wish they had Jalen Hurts. They wish they had him.
That's true.
It's true.
Yep.
He's a championship player. He's won national championships. You don't pick against that. Big
Great.
time Jalen.
Yeah, I think Oklahoma has sucked all life out of Baylor with that in that fourth quarter that they played just a couple of weeks ago. I got Boomer Sooner pretty big, but I don't know.
The Schooner's going to topple over again, man. It's going to happen.
It is.
Oh yeah, that was hilarious.
I was real tempted to bear down
Gary thought it was funny.
with this pick. I was real tempted to bear down with this pick, but at the end of the day, I still think out of all the Oklahoma teams that we've had over the past few years, this is the best one that I've seen, even with their slip-ups that have happened this season. So I'm going to go Oklahoma. Ro just told me that I missed this call. So.
Oh
Ro
no,
didn't
no,
like it.
I'm sorry. I was watching
yeah.
Houston, New England. Oh,
Yeah,
sorry.
yeah. Speaking of which, they showed
Who?
Josh McDaniels on the TV earlier in this Patriots-Texans game. As we were talking about Lane Kiffin, and I never realized how much he looks like a short Lane Kiffin.
He's
Good
Lane
observation.
Kiffin's little brother.
Yep. All right, Oregon and Utah. This is going to be one of the most interesting matchups, I think, of the entire week. I'm very interested to see this game. Keith, what you got in the spread department?
The Utes are a 6.5-point favorite.
All right, there we go. Chandler?
Utah's going to win. They're going to go to the playoff.
Yeah, they are.
Playoffs.
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 Keith?
Playoffs.
Utah pooped the bed last year in the Pac-12 championship. They've got a fresh pair of pants on. They're going to win this one, fellas.
That right there, if that doesn't get you pumped up, I don't know what will.
Oh, Lakers have pooped their big boy pants.
We got some fresh drawers on, Paul. We're going to win it.
Ro, how are your drawers?
My drawers are dirty. I am.
Why?
I've been changing poopy diapers for like 2 weeks straight. So I am going with Big Boy's son, Big Boy the rapper of the hip hop duo Outkast. He plays at Oregon, I'm picking them.
Bamboo.
It is. It actually might be. I'm not positive of his name, but Big Boy the second plays at Oregon, so I'm going with the Ducks to be the spoiler for Utah to get out of the playoff to allow another SEC team to be in the playoff quiz. We all know that's going to happen. We all know it's going to happen.
Grape?
I got to go along with Roe. I mean, silverback orangutans, you don't stop the train.
How?
I'm going with the Ducks.
Hold up, slow up, stop, control. I don't have anything else. I just want to say that because I feel like I always need to say that.
Yep, that's good. It's real good. I can't think of any other rappers that have used the phrase "Yo quiero Taco Bell" in the middle of a verse, like Big Boy did in B.O.B. In high school, anytime I made a mixed CD, I guess you can't really say mixtapes when you burn CDs, but we'll say mixtape still. Anytime I made a mixtape in high school, didn't matter what the theme, what the overall genre was on the mixtape, I included B.O.B. by Outkast on it every time. And I could recite the entire song at the drop of a hat. I will not right now, but I will pick the Oregon Ducks to pull this one off against Utah and ruin everything for everyone.
It just seems like one of those games that
Utah loses, Alabama gets back in the playoff, baby.
That's it.
1.4% chance.
That's it. And not only that, but like Oregon wins and makes the whole Auburn-Oregon game that started the season look even more bizarre.
Oh, yeah. I forgot about that
one.
Oh,
yeah. How good are either of these teams? They never have really kind of figured it out. But
they all suck.
Everyone sucks. Speaking of everyone sucking, the SEC title game, the Louisiana State University Fighting Tigers and the Georgia Bulldogs, who shouldn't be allowed to have an on-the-field mascot because he looks sad. All right, what's the spread, Keith?
He also got attacked by Booby Willow. Still haven't gotten an official apology out of him.
Seriously, different Bulldog, but seriously.
LSU, no. He attacked Uga too. It was in private though. LSU is a 6.5 point favorite.
Interesting. Great offense in LSU. Great defense in Georgia. Chandler, lead us off.
I'm gonna go with LSU. I think that Georgia kind of fell apart with some discipline stuff last week. They had some injuries, and LSU is just too good. So I think Georgia will slow them down, but Georgia can't score consistently enough, and LSU gets it up.
Keith?
Yeah, Swift being a question mark, and then the dude that threw 1,000 punches being gone for a half. Like, it wouldn't even matter.
Kirby Smart.
Yeah, Kirby Smart fought a Georgia Tech player.
Yeah. Not a good one.
Yeah. If that was Will Muschamp, I would believe it. Yeah. It's not going to matter who's hurt or who's not. LSU's going to win, and they're going to cover.
Ro?
I like that voodoo that they do down on the bayou. I'm picking LSU.
Now I want to use.
Oh, yeah. This is one of my go-to road trip treats to enjoy.
Oh, so good.
Yep. Gray?
Well, I mean, just considering the fact that DeAndre Swift is questionable, and Pickens is going to be out for a half, and Cager is kind of hampered by an injury as well. I don't see Fromm having his normal 14 of 21
for 210 yards.
Yeah, for 210.
210 yards. What do you do? Complete an 80-yard pass?
I don't know. So with that being said, one final time for this SEC football season. Go Tigers!
Tigers.
We need to get a soundbite and just have that played every single time.
Seriously.
We need it every single time.
Done.
Yeah, got to go LSU on this one. The LSU defense played surprisingly well against Texas A&M. And I say that because the LSU defense has not necessarily looked all that great for most of the season. They did well last week. Then they got a little momentum on their side. LSU should handle this game, covering, I'm thinking 2 touchdowns on Georgia. 2 of them. Bring them up. All right, ladies and gentlemen, thank you for tuning into this episode of Running Out the Clock.
Wait, so we aren't going to do the super close ACC championship game?
No, because I was only going to do games against that people cared about. Oh man, that one is 2 ranked teams, isn't it? So yeah, Clemson.
All the Wahoos out there in Virginia are very triggered by that statement.
Yep. So no, we're not going to pick it. Thanks for tuning into this episode of Running Out the Clock. Thank you for tuning in on YouTube, on your favorite podcasting listening device, whatever you use to listen to them. Please leave a rate, review, all of that good stuff.
5 stars.
5 stars. Honestly,
like the
just any
recruits.
review. Like one star is fine. It doesn't matter. It just any attention's good attention. And if you want to tune in on another live broadcast, we do them on Sunday evenings around 8 Central. Thank you for listening. All right, for Gray, for Roe, for Keith, for Crambles, I am your friend, Joseph Craven. Thank you for tuning in to Running Out the Clock. Stay tuned. Season premiere of God Friended Me is next.